Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another review. This time it's going to be Joker. Joker is written and directed by Todd Phillips and stars Joaquin Phoenix, Robert De Niro, and Zazie Beetz. Joker is a story, it's an origin story, a new take on the origin story of the Joker from the Batman series, and it really focuses on his descent into madness. It focuses on him whenever he's younger, his struggling with mental illness, basically just looking at Gotham through the eyes of the Joker. I think this is really the first time that we get a full-on perspective piece of the Joker. I'm going to be completely honest with this one. I wasn't really that excited for it. I was seeing the trailers and I was thinking, it's just kind of, it looked a little bit like it was trying too hard. It looked a little edgy. That's kind of how these DC movies have been going. They've been trying to get all super edgy and everything. But I'm happy to say that I was completely wrong in this one. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was great. First of all, Joaquin Phoenix is incredible as always. He really transforms. He's similar to Christian Bale in the respect that he really transforms his body and like his image, and he becomes this character. He really looks pretty unhealthy at times in the film. There's many parts of the movie where he does this weird contorting of his body, and it's just really I don't want to say it's creepy, but it's certainly off-putting, but it fits for the character that he's playing. The shot composition of this film is incredible. It's an amazing looking movie, nice visual storytelling, except it gets a little bit exaggerated at points. I'll get more into that whenever I get into a bit of a spoilers here. But yeah, all together, it looked really beautiful. This town that the Joker is living in, this Gotham, really looks miserable. There's this trash strike going on, so there's just heaps of garbage everywhere. So I think that the set design's really nice. Every time that Joaquin Phoenix leaves his apartment, there's always these heaps of trash and everything going on all over the place, and it's a bit of a metaphor to the town, saying there's trash everywhere. But it's I don't want to say it's a little heavy-handed there, but I thought it was a nice touch. So basically, Joaquin Phoenix's character Arthur Fleck, he has a mental illness where he laughs uncontrollably. It doesn't reflect his emotional state, and he is experiencing that multiple times throughout the film, and it really at points it really makes you feel for the character. He really can. You see that he's suffering through this because he's like laughing, and that's not the emotion he's trying to convey. He's sad or angry, but he just starts going out in these fits of radical laughing fits. It was an interesting take. I wasn't sure how I was going to like it when they first introduced it, but as the film moved on, I thought that it was a nice way of moving the story on a bit. But I do have one problem, and it's just that apparently everyone in Gotham City is just the biggest douchebag ever. Like, they're all treating this guy like a monster and like beating him up any chance that they get. Everybody's just like completely turned on him, and he's just trying to live his life. He's just a guy down in the dumps. He's an aspiring comedian that we see throughout the film. He goes out and tries and do some comedy sketches, but unfortunately his mental illness takes him there, and it doesn't perform well. And that's whenever we get to see him on the late night show, he's mocked by one of his idols, basically a comedy idol of his. He's mocked by him on live television, and it just really goes to show. It made me wonder, like, why is everybody in this town like the biggest piece of shit ever? But yeah, guys, it's kind of hard to talk about this movie without talking about spoilers. So if you don't want to get spoiled, you can jump to this point right here in the video, and then I'll give my rating of the movie. And I found it kind of hard to believe the things that we were seeing throughout the film, because we get a lot of these kind of dream sequences. In the beginning of the film, we see that he's watching this late night comedy stand-up routine, or television show, late night show with his mother, and he has this dream sequence where he's a part of the audience, and he basically gets called on to the stage by the guy, Robert De Niro's character Murray, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're something special, Arthur. You're a good guy," and he gives him a hug and basically saying, like, "I wish I had a son like you." So obviously that part is, it's clearly fake. But then we have other parts of the film where after these events, basically Arthur kills these three people that were mugging him in the train station. And he goes on, he kind of seems liberated after that. And he goes into Zazie Beetz' apartment and like makes out with her. And it's implied that they start a relationship with that, which is very odd because it's just like, why would this person like start dating you or whatever? And he's clearly mentally ill. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like there was hardly any setup for it. And then it's realized later, it's revealed later in the film that it was all in his head, so that he like walks into her apartment and she's like shocked that he is there and everything, and he's making it really awkward because he's just sitting in there. And that's the part where I was talking about where the visual storytelling's a little heavy-handed. Just the interaction between the two, I think, would have been enough. It's kind of treating your audience like they're idiots whenever you have like 3 shots of previously established points where the Joker and Zazie Beetz are supposed to be like talking and going out on dates, and then it cuts and it's just we see that it's him by himself, having these vivid imaginations. I feel like that was kind of, I don't want to say it's insulting, but it's not treating your audience with a lot of respect, because I thought that just like her shock and treatment of him whenever he is found sitting in her apartment was enough to be like, yeah, that wasn't real. But I guess we had to show that for people that might not have been quick on the uptake, I guess. But going back to the ambiguity of the film, we find this revelation, or it's presumed revelation, that Arthur Fleck is actually Thomas Wayne's son. His mother had a relationship with the Thomas Wayne. She used to work for them, and then she implies that they had a relationship, and because of that relationship, Arthur Fleck was born, is the son of Thomas Wayne. And he goes and tries to confront the Waynes about it, and he was told by Thomas Wayne that his mother is a psychopath. She's crazy as well. And he goes to find out about it. He goes to Arkham Asylum, basically, and gets some medical records off that. And we find through the medical records that she is supposedly crazy and mistreated her son whenever he was a young child. And he was adopted. We don't know where he comes from, which I thought was nice. Kind of a subtle, who is the Joker really? But it's kind of implied that maybe the Waynes had just enough money and power to fake those records, and they had the power to do whatever they wanted, and it's hard to decide. I think it's intentionally ambiguous, which is pretty. It can be frustrating at points, but it's nice, let the audience decide whether his mother actually was abusive, or if he is the child of Thomas Wayne and, is just neglected by them because it would look bad on their image. About halfway through the film, I was thinking to myself, this could have worked better maybe if it wasn't, labeled by the Joker in this pre-established DC universe that we had, just kind of a mentally ill person going through life, and then, transitioning the descent into this horrible person, these horrible acts that happen. But I thought about it a little bit more, and it's like, yeah, it works as on a standalone, but you almost need the preconceived knowledge and intentions, basically, of the character, the Joker, for it to really work. Clearly, Taxi Driver and, multiple Scorsese films were an influence for this movie, and we've seen then in those types of movies where it's just a regular person and their descent into these terrible acts and things. But I think that having it be the Joker has a different spin on it. It might just be because it's a world-renowned, recognizable name. But I thought that just by itself, it would have worked almost better. And then whenever the Joker things started happening, because it takes quite a while to get into the actual Joker, stuff, it really started to fall into piece for me that it was necessary, I think, to have it. I want to talk a little bit about the controversy that's been surrounded this film. Basically, just that it is inciting violence, and people, it's kind of like the downtrodden. They'll see it as kind of like an uplifting story and motivate people into violence. And I can definitely see where that's coming from based on watching the film. I don't want to say it's inciting violence at all, because it certainly isn't. And I think that people need to recognize to separate art from, reality at points. But it does have kind of a narrative of, the less fortunate taking over. I feel like some people could, misinterpret that, misread that, and, see it as a call to action. But I think that is just absurd, really. It's just a movie, and it's just a story that that Todd Phillips is telling, and Joaquin Phoenix is performing brilliantly. So that's basically just my thought process on that. Near the end of the film, it does seem like there is a bit of a wealthy or anti-rich narrative, though. Basically, that is the conflict throughout the film. After the acts of Arthur killing those three businessmen in the subway, it basically starts a movement where it's like the rich are the ones that are oppressing us. They're the ones taking advantage of us. During a news segment, Thomas Wayne calls everybody that is kind of downtrodden and not helping themselves clowns. So they kind of rally behind that. They're all clowns, and it really starts a movement. And during the final confrontation where the Joker goes on to the Murray talk show. He was invited there after he was being mocked. He basically, he says there he wasn't intending to start a movement. He killed them because it felt good. They were treating him poorly, so he killed them. But then he kind of, leans into the political movement because of the actions that he's taken. He's being noticed and, heralded, basically. So it's kind of it's a little muddled, I think. But I think that there is a bit of an anti-wealthy message that is going on here. At least that's how I perceived it. But anyway, guys, yeah, I really like the film. All of the set design was amazing. The performances, of course, by Joaquin and everybody is just incredible. The story, it was a little hard to, grasp at some points, but I ended up, really falling for it and everything. So I think I'm going to give this one a 4.5 out of 5. 4.25. I don't know, something like that. Closer to 4.5 than 4.25.
Send in the clowns.
Well, yeah, guys, that's my video. As always, thank you for coming by. Look forward to more reviews from me very soon. I didn't have a lot of movie reviews up recently because, unfortunately, my movie theater closed down for like 3 weeks, but it's open up again, and I'll be able to go see more movies again. So look forward to that pretty soon. And as always, guys, thank you for stopping by.